I'll call the meeting to order. Would you please stand and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome to our meeting. This might be the largest we've had.
Welcome.
Right. And the next thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for April 2nd, our last meeting. I thought they were good, as always.
I make the motion, we approve the minutes of April 2nd, 2025.
I can second that. Is Mark with us too? You're on?
Yes.
Okay.
So Chris has made a motion and Matt has seconded it to approve the minutes of April 2nd. All those in favor? Mark? Thank you. Next are department reports and yes.
I guess I'm it.
I think you are.
I'm the only department head here tonight. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending. I know one of the issues we're dealing with tonight is gonna be hot topic, and I understand that, and I appreciate it. And so you all know, my name is Paul Farrell, and I'm the chief of police for Monmouth and Winthrop. I would just say, we can all agree to disagree on things. Let's keep a good decorum tonight. Let's have good debate tonight. And just keep it simple. That's all I ask. It's apparent that there's a lot of concern amongst the public about the application I filed with ICE, which is the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency for the US. So I filed that application 2 weeks ago, and I will say that, as of the end of last week, that application was withdrawn by me. So the application is not in. You've gone on the ICE website recently, you'll see that the application is not in standing right now. I just want to explain to the community, the reasoning behind the initial application. We've been dealing with these issues out on the road, and when I say issues, illegal immigrants, aliens, however you want to terminology you want to use. And our officers out there on the road have been dealing with this, not knowing exactly how to deal with these situations. My application to ICE was an effort to obtain that training. 40 hours of required training before you can work with ICE. And I say work, would be doing the exact same thing we're doing now, except we'd be more knowledgeable about doing it. No more chairs over here, folks, if you want to come sit. Like I said, our patrol force has very little training in dealing with these sort of issues, so this was my effort to get them the training they needed, so they feel comfortable out on the road when they run across these situations. And we do run across these situations quite frequently, believe it or not, in our little town of Monmouth. When we run into these situations on the road, we have to call the Border Patrol. Border Patrol then calls ICE, and then they'll call us back, explain to us what they're going to be doing, and we may be sitting roadside 2, 3, 4 hours tying our officers up. And because they have to send units down from the border, wherever that is, Greenville, Rangeley, Jackman, so we're sitting roadside waiting for them. One of the questions is, and one of the things that I'm concerned with when my officers out there dealing with this type of situation is, what are the legal boundaries? What do we have the rights to do? Do we have the right to detain them? You know, we don't want to violate anybody's constitutional rights. whether you're illegal, alien, unnaturalized, whatever the case may be, you are afforded those rights, and we just don't want to violate people's rights. So again, that's one of the primary reasons the officers on the road are uncomfortable with it. And I saw this as an opportunity to get them some training to alleviate their concerns and their fears. The outcome is, like I said, the outcome has been the individuals, we hope to detain them until a representative either contacts us by phone or tells us to release them with a court date. Release them because they already have a court date, or hold them and they will be down to get them. At that point, Border Patrol, when they show up, they take custody of them, they transport them back for processing wherever that takes place. I have no idea. They may take them to Rangeley, they may take them to Jackman, they may take them, I don't know. That's out of our bailiwick, and at that point, our officers are free to go back to their business, what we are paying them to do, which is keep our community safe. And again, I just want to reiterate, from 2, 3, 4 hours it takes for someone to get down here, our officers are tied up roadside, not doing what they should be doing. Just to give you a little history, we had a situation last summer where we had a suspicious activity complaint in North Monmouth behind Tex Tech Industries at 2 in the morning. Our officer arrived on scene, and we detained 6 individuals out of that interaction. All of them were illegal aliens. What they were doing behind Tex Tech at 2 in the morning, I have no idea. One officer, 6 illegal aliens, we ended up having to call people in to pay them overtime to come in and deal with that situation, so. We brought them to Winthrop PD, we held on to them till Customs showed up, and they took responsibility for them. I can't tell you to this day why they were behind there, what they were doing. We can only assume. Every single one of them came up with a different story as to why they were behind that business at that time of the morning, which is alarming and concerning to me. And that's not the only situation we've had. I mean, we've probably in the last 18 months, we've dealt with a dozen or so, maybe a little more, illegal aliens. And it's nothing we're go out looking for. It's derived from traffic stops, derived from people calling in a complaint, suspicious conduct. It's not anything we go out looking for. It just falls in our lap, and that's what we're out here for. That's what we're doing. We're protecting our community. And some people want to turn my application into what it's not. That's as far as I'll go with that. Again, the contract, and I have not signed a contract. Like I said, I applied to ICE, made an application to them. When I saw how it was dividing the community, that's not what I want. That's not what any of our officers want. Our community is our community. It's our home. Our officers love working here. They love the community, and we're not here to divide the community. And that's one of the reasons why I pulled the application. Not the only reason, but the biggest reason why I did. I also want to point out that there were allegations made that we would see monetary benefit by doing this. And I'm here to tell you there's no monetary benefit to doing this. We get nothing from the feds. We're here to work together. The only caveat I will say is they offered, if we have to send someone to their 40 hours of training, they would pay for travel down and for meals. But seeing as how the training that they offer is done online, it's not enough. How are you, sir?
Very good.
So I just want to calm the fear and the rhetoric out there that I'm hearing and that I'm seeing on the Facebook pages and we aren't going door to door. We aren't knocking on doors looking for illegal aliens in our community. Our community is our home. We love our home. And, nothing will change. We're already doing the job. We just want to do it better, more efficiently, and keep our officers, fears at bay, because when they're dealing with people like that on the side of the road, there's a lot going on in a short amount of time, and they want to make sure they do it right, and I'm sure you all want to make sure they do it right. And that's the whole purpose behind this application. Anybody who knows me and knows the men and women who are working in this community knows we're not going out knocking on doors. That's not what we're here about. We're here about making our community safe, keeping you folks safe, and doing our jobs the best that we can. And the best that we can comes with training. I guess that wraps up what I wanted to say about it. Anybody have any questions for me? I'm here. Yes, ma'am.
I thank you for providing a context because it's really hard to understand what the real issue is if you don't talk about it, and that's why we came tonight. I've done a lot of research on contract program 287G. I've reviewed the impact to communities, and I have a lot of faith in you and I respect you a lot. And so it really surprised me, quite frankly, when I was told that this was going to happen, because just of my own biases or, looking at the news, looking at things that are going on. So I appreciate your explaining what this is about. And I guess I needed to know how often it happened because you don't hear about it a lot.
And that's our job, to keep you guys
Right.
safe and not bring fear into the public. That's one of our, it's a detriment to what we do because we don't communicate with you exactly what's going on in our communities, and sometimes there's a reason behind that.
Right. But I appreciate the police presence in the community. I appreciate meeting the officers and having a great relationship with them and knowing that they're looking out for our community. And I just didn't want to bring chaos and some of the stuff that's going on out there, some of the experiences that I've read about in other towns. Objectively, the results of having this contract have not been positive. It sounds like you're doing it for training, which makes sense. And I guess I'll let other people speak. I still have questions, but
I've got a question. Mr. Chair. I've got a question too.
You
You go ahead.
Chief, are other police departments doing this?
Wells in York County is the first department in the state of Maine that has signed a contract with ICE.
Not the state police, not
No.
the sheriffs?
Nope.
And there's, of course, we're surrounded by towns that have no police departments are covered by Sheriffs. Or the state police. So shouldn't they be involved in this?
I can't speak for them. I can't speak for the other.
And you haven't heard that they have,
I have nothing official that I've heard from any other agencies, state police, sheriff's department, communities.
the only one I've heard of is Bangor, and they're not doing it because they don't want to change from the chairman of the board. They don't want to change the community presence of the police department. And I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that's what the So they're not gonna do it in Bangor according to the,
What I've heard is only Wells and Monmouth are the only two in the
Yes.
state.
yes, that's right.
Well, Monmouth,
Wells and thing, yeah.
no, it's not.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Two different communities.
one question. Chief, how do you and your officers know that you're dealing with an undocumented person?
It presents itself in different ways. I mean, they come up with an international driver's license that's invalid. They don't have any identification for the state of Maine.
Stop me, for example. Would you stop me and check me out?
Would I stop? If you're doing something wrong, I would.
No, you're doing crazy because that's not the case. The case
Yeah, that's
everybody
not the case
knows.
at all.
The case everybody knows is a high profile issue.
So,
And many
if-
times, may I?
no, let me say
Hold
something.
on a
You
second.
missed the whole introduction by the chief. So
Which is-
he's,
If
Rich,
you don't mind.
so the chief explained to us that he was doing this exclusively for training. So his officers know what they need to do rather than waiting on the side of the road for 6 hours for border patrol. And also, he has also pulled back his request.
So it's not gonna happen?
So the application has been withdrawn.
So it's not gonna happen?
Was it
The
an
application has been
The
withdrawn.
Was it an application for
Point of order, Mr. Chair, point of order.
87G? Was that what the application was for?
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I might suggest procedurally that we wait on public comment until we get to the public comment period. And that if there are questions to be asked during the chief's department report, that those questions come from the select board. And that if folks want to ask questions during the public comment period, they're welcome to. The police chief will be here and that will be moderated. That sound reasonable?
Well, Your Honor, I suggest that we take the public comment portion of the agenda out of order and do it now. Let's get it over with. It's the board. How do you feel about this? Let's take it out of order, get these people out of here, and they're not interested in hearing us approve the minutes.
Well, they already heard that. You missed that part.
Oh, and I was. That's all right. Okay. Let's take it out of order and let people. Okay, so. You want to do this?
Well,
That's fine.
excuse me, so
Mr. Chair, would you like to appoint a moderator of the public comment period?
Yes, I would. I'd like to appoint you, Mr.
Thank you. So as your duly appointed moderator of the public comment period, we have a sign-in sheet that folks can use to sign in if they wish. It does require that you tell us what your town of residence is, because the folks from Monmouth will get priority on that. And we'll just go through, according to the Monmouth Select Board Business Meeting Public Comment Guidelines, each person gets to speak for 2 minutes. If you wish, you could use the 2-minute period to ask the chief questions. I'm sure they'd be happy to oblige. Yes, we have a pen right here. And Chris Sanborn is going to be our timekeeper so that we can keep track of this. Just make sure that folks are, as the chief has mentioned, it's important to be civil. Remember that we're all neighbors and that we all are going to see each other next week again. So, I think the first person on our sign-in sheet was Mr. Cohen. Would you like to speak, Mr. Cohen of Monmouth?
Well, in light of sort of the actions, I don't really have any specific comments. I was sort of interested, I had a question that was similar to yours, Ken. Essentially, how do you know if somebody's illegal, and I think if you want to expound on that anymore, and what you, I think it was helpful to hear, your experiences, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, and again, if we interact with someone who's not presenting ID or presenting an international driver's license, which we have found most of the time that they're fraudulent. and we run them through the system, they don't come back anywhere in the US. We'll call customs and when they need to do customs, and that's how the ball gets started.
One other thing, just in terms of sort of your withdrawal of the application. If it's sort of reinstated, would the public, if it's reinstated, will the public will get notice of that fact?
Yeah,
Okay.
they had no problem getting notified first.
Thank you. Who's next on our list and, moving down from the top?
Oh, it's me.
Ginger Hillier of Monmouth.
So, I found that I had to learn so much, and every time I read something, or it would change my life because I learned more. So I do think there was a basic lack of basic information about what you wanted and what was gonna happen that would have helped some of the angst, some of the people. I appreciate the fact that our staff would like to have training so that we do things right, so we don't get ourselves into trouble. But in looking to all of this, what really bothered me was the proposal that we would be part of the transport system, which I had heard we were doing because we might get some reimbursement for it, which you have now said that that is not the case. On the transport issue, that puts our police in the middle of a national issue relative to mass deportations for immigrants, some of them legal. And I felt like that is a huge national issue, political and legal, no matter which side you're on. And it seems to me, putting the Monmouth Police Department in the middle of that particular issue is going to set us up for a high risk of legal pushback from either side. And that really concerned me. But I really like the idea of trying to find some training for people to help them to do this right, to understand what, the process better and what racial profiling is so that we're not unintentionally doing it.
15 seconds.
Okay, so I guess I will stop there because so the information, accurate, unbiased information is really important if we're going.
Thank you. Before we move on to our next speaker, if you're zooming in and you wish to say something, you can get yourself on the public comment list just by raising your hand, and then we'll put you on the list. Okay, who's next on the list there? We've done the first two. Third on the list.
Is it me? Judith Johnson?
Judith Johnson. The chair recognizes Judith Johnson. The moderator recognizes Judith Johnson.
You recognize me, that's my glasses off. Thank you. For your explanation. And this is your commentary. If you didn't hear that, it makes a big difference because it was very, very good, the information. And first of all, I want to say thank you to you and to the police. I really appreciate it, really do. A lot of what Ginger said, I will say also. The thing, right now, because of the national situation, everything is so fraught. I mean, it is like, if you don't get information, well, you're gonna get information, God knows what it's gonna be. You know. How if it's, sensible or not. And so for you to say that you had withdrawn from the contract application, that you didn't, I have, this is full of questions, pretty much. You answered.
Well, hopefully I answered most.
You did, and I want to thank you for that.
But I also agree with Ginger. That because of the situation in the country now, it is, it's very hard, and I would imagine more so for you to do a good job. Absolutely, and if there's any way to get any training to come down, I mean, in the state, you know, this kind of thing, that would be good. But we need to know, because, you know, that's the most important thing. So I'm
15 seconds.
That's time.
No, that's time, that's two.
I would have, yeah,
Gone on.
I would have gone on if you didn't say that. So thank you, thank you.
Next is Aiden Sawyer.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Chief, for mentioning that you hold it as a priority and value not to violate the constitutional rights of the people that you're seeing in Monmouth. I think it's important, and I'm glad that you've noted that you've withdrawn the application to contract with ICE, because there is a lot of evidence that supports that ICE has been violating the constitutional rights of documented and undocumented folks, as well as their constitutional, as well as just basic human rights. So I'd be skeptical that ICE would be providing you guys with ethical training to actually deal with the situations in an appropriate manner. And I thank this guy back here for raising attention to the fact that racial profiling is a prevalent thing in many police forces across the country. And I think that if you're looking to have trainings that help your police force that cares about protecting our community, then it would be valuable to use our taxpayer dollars to invest in some racial competency trainings. What else can I say here? I had notes. I'd like to note that we are a nation of immigrants. Let me see, hang on, what else do I have? Okay, I'm also gonna take the rest of my time to talk about the value of New Mainers in our communities. I work in Lewiston, and I have seen firsthand the value of New Mainers families and students, but let's also talk about some statistical evidence and anecdotal evidence from the community of Lewiston. So Northwestern University in Illinois 2024 reports data from a 150-year study that supports that immigrants are significantly less likely to how many?
15
seconds. Okay, they're way less likely to commit crimes. They're way more likely to be the victims of hate crimes. Since 2000, the Lewiston poverty rate has decreased 46%.
Your time's up. Who we have next?
Glenn Griswold.
That'd be me. I guess I'd just say I'm diametrically opposed to having ICE being doing the training for you. My sense is that what I've seen so far is that they are not doing an ethical or great job about it. So I'd look elsewhere. I concur with you. The training is necessary and would be helpful to people, to your staff. So yes, pursue it, but please don't pursue it with people who will have, at least in my view, demonstrated that they're not doing it in an ethical way. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Griswold. Who's next?
Mary Griswold.
Okay, so I know I've already spoken and I understand the issue better, and I respect you and I respect the police officers, and I think, you know, I'm comfortable in this community. I echo my husband's concern about ICE. I've seen horrible things happen and acts. First of all, an acts breaking a window of a guy who is here legally with his wife. And if those people are doing the training, I have questions. It's not in our best interest. Yes, we have an illegal immigration problem. Yes, we need resources, but we need to think about, maybe it's better to let some more towns, like Mr. Ludwig said, let some other towns in Maine. Bangor is not doing it for the reasons that, you know, we've alluded to. and maybe not be the second town in Maine, of all the communities in Maine, be the second town doing it. I just think we have to think very carefully about what the possible ramifications may be. We talked about the advantages, let's talk about the disadvantages.
Thank you. Who's next?
Dory Burnham.
I worked for immigration for 8 years, the border patrol and for the immigration service back in the day. And I graduated from the Federal Law Enforcement Training Academy at the top of my class. And I do not think, or I know that you cannot determine somebody's citizenship or legal status, particularly if you can't speak the language. And there are
And
so
that's
many.
problematic for us as well.
Yeah, so I used to translate for the Amsterdam Sheriff's Department. So immigration is a political football, and it always has been, from the time of the first immigration law and the Chinese Exclusion Act. And it doesn't get done right, and it doesn't get done well, because the left says one thing, the right says another, and whoever's running for office says whatever he thinks is gonna get the most number of votes. So it's not a coherent policy, it's a patchwork of many different amendments and TPS status. There's US citizens, there's green card holders, there's a huge variety of non-immigrant visa holders. There's people with TPS status, there's people who are asylees and they're refugees. All of these people are here legally, and they are taking people out of naturalization ceremonies where they're swearing their oath to become US citizens and deporting them to this gulag in El Salvador. Now, if you've revoked that application to do so, I salute you. I think that's a brave thing to do, and I appreciate it. And my husband appreciates it, I'm sure. But it is such a difficult thing, and I agree with this gentleman. I went through 18 weeks of immigration training, and there was still law that we didn't know, and that was 25 years ago. So now, it's just impossible to do that. But thank you, if you would
No,
know
thank
that.
you.
Mr. Ortiz.
Yeah, and in this case, please forgive me if I initiated without not knowing exactly the details, but if you withdraw, thank you for that. But I live, me and my daughter and other people who are not white people, you have no idea what it's like to be profiled by accent, it doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter you don't have a criminal record. There's a lot of things that don't matter, and we have, all of us have seen it in the news. And ICE is pretending to train people, they should start by training their own people. And the only thing that I ask is that everybody just follows the law. And that's what's happening right now. Officers and ICE are not following the law. They are not respecting the status. They are not even answering to judges' orders. So for that reason, thank you everybody who would refuse to have this training from ICE, because they don't know what they're doing. And thank you very much for refusing and withdrawing their application.
Who's next, Chris?
Chuck Hillier.
Oh, thank you. I spent 30 years as a union representative, representing policemen. So I'm familiar with, I spent most of today with the Lincoln County Sheriff in a disciplinary matter. I just want to add my voice to the concern about this proposed contract. I think it would be a really wrong move to make. I appreciate what you're doing.
Who's next, Chris?
Anna Boynton.
I just wanted to ask the question, now that I know that your application has been withdrawn. Where will you go and look or to find training? Because it really does need to happen for your officers.
And I can't answer that. I don't know. We were looking for some guidance on, and I know what everybody's opinion on ICE is here. We were looking for guidance from the federal agencies that deal with this on how we deal with it roadside.
Right.
You know, and I don't know any other resources out there, you know, and
Right.
we just muddle through it and we get through it and that's what it takes.
That's quite an issue. for your safety of your officers too, besides.
And also, yes, but it's also the safety of the people we're dealing with, because like
Exactly.
you said, a lot of times they don't understand us, we don't understand them.
Right.
And we're working through an app on the phone, once you figure out what dialect they have, and trying to do that, it's very difficult. So it becomes problematic and we work our way through it the best we can. I was just looking for ways to make them feel comfortable, more comfortable roadside in dealing with these situations. Because that is a big issue. I don't want the officers out there feeling uncomfortable and not knowing what they should be and what they shouldn't be doing.
Thank you.
Paul, can I interrupt?
Sure.
Wouldn't it be a good idea if the criminal justice gathering?
Their state, they wouldn't do anything federal related.
They wouldn't help.
I'd be willing to bet that someone from the ACLU is listening right now, and I bet you they could put you in contact with someone.
Can the Samsung phone mute themselves, please?
There we go.
That might be me.
There we go. Okay, who's, Chris,
Senator Hickman, it was somebody else.
who's next on our list, Chris?
Mary Jane
Who's the next
Cowan.
contestant?
Mary Jean Cowan.
I have a question about the training. What obligation would your officers have after taking that training?
What obligation will,
Would they be, would they have to do anything different with ICE than what they're doing now?
one of the points that was brought up is that, if someone's already been issued a court date to appear in court, we would be able to speak directly to ICE and not go through Border Patrol. And what they could tell us, and you could probably tell us as well better, is this individual's already been issued a court date. Just remind them of the court date and release. That's one of the benefits of it.
Would that be in your computer system?
Not ours,
No.
no. No, that's why we have to have that one-on-one with ICE, for them to give us that information. The other thing that it would allow us to do is they would say, okay, just issue them a court date for October, whatever, and release them. And that is what's happened in the past when we detained and waited for 3-4 hours for someone to show up and they bring them back, process them, and they just issue them another court date and release them.
So Chief, when some of the invitations and information that got people to come to this meeting suggested that Monmouth Winthrop PD was going to be deputized ICE agents. What does that mean?
I'm not nice sure.
Okay, so it basically means you don't have to wait 3 hours roadside for somebody to show up.
And each situation's gonna go down its own rabbit hole. I mean, we may still end up sitting there. We may end up being able to issue them a citation on the side of the road and send them on their way based on what ICE tells us to do. And that's one of the things that was appealing to me, is get the officers back doing what their primary function is and not sitting side the road for 2-3 hours.
Who's next on our list, Chris?
Jeffrey Miller.
Lived in Monmouth since 2002. I have a home office, and every day I sit in front of 2 family trees. And that goes all the way back to the Mayflower and before. My grandfather came over in the Depression, Liverpool, England. Worked for a year before he was able to bring his wife and their 4 kids over. As a carpenter. So, my father was an immigrant. I had to declare my citizenship when I was 18 because I was born overseas. Father was an American citizen. He was a civilian working as a reporter for Stars and Stripes on a military base. Mom and Dad lived in Germany for 9 years. I didn't know I had to declare my citizenship until I was looking for a school in Canada. at 18 months. So everything about this, I appreciate very much so what this police do for our community. And I voted to keep you guys as a department in our community when there were threats in the past to remove the department. So I see the value. I'm the guy with the Greyhound. Ruger. You guys know me. I see you guys all the time walking. You know, and I see a lot of traffic on the road. I also probably have avoided a number of contact highs from people driving by, which really blows my mind. But I did 22 years of service in substance abuse and prevention work for the state of Maine. And I was one of the co-authors the not legalizing marijuana in the state. I worked with many law enforcement. There are enough people in this room with experience that may be able to come up with an idea for who to help you do the training.
Dan Walker.
Everybody knows me. 5 years, federal and state law enforcement. All up for the training. And we can put anybody's initials in front of it because as a federal officer, I work for one of only 2 agencies in the country that can enforce all federal laws, no matter what the crime is. And I worked here for 5 years. And during that time here, there were several times where we encountered someone that didn't have proper identification, ended up having to sit and wait for Border Patrol or, hey, can we meet halfway somewhere? And I have absolutely no problem with it. The department getting the training. I'm sure if you reach out to Fletchley, someone down there can help you out. And ICE is getting a bad rep as the media, the mainstream media likes to throw the sensational at everybody. And having been on some of those assignments during my 20 years, I will say that I'm totally for Monmouth Department getting the training, and even to the point of if you apply again, I'd be in favor of that because I know in my heart, the people that work here aren't gonna be busting windows out and taking people out through the windows and doing all the BS that's going on the television because I've worked in it. And I have done more than my fair share of repatriating people back where they need to go. So I can get booed for that or whatever, but a good portion of my 20 years was in the Coast Guard. But as a federal law enforcement officer in the Coast Guard, I was assigned to other federal agencies throughout my 20 years. I didn't ride Coast Guard boats and do search and rescue for 20 years. I did a lot of other things that brought people back to Haiti and other countries and down in Central America. So I'm all in favor of the department getting the training.
All right. Who's next?
Deb Keeler.
Hey, Deb.
Question, if you join ICE, are you mandated to go door to door? Okay, so that wouldn't take resources of what you do now.
No matter of fact, if that was a requirement, I wouldn't do it.
The other thing I want to talk about is the library and the ordinance, the new ordinance. Where does that stand? Or am I out of turn? Do we want to discuss that when we get there?
Why don't we finish up with our question and answer list or public comment list, and then we can talk about other topics afterwards. So just bring that up again.
That was the end of the sign-in sheet, so.
Others who wish to speak. Right here.
Denise, what town are you from?
For,
Denise, excuse me, what town are you from? please?
She's from Monmouth. Oh, you're from Winthrop? Okay, well, I did have somebody from Winthrop, so we were taking people from Monmouth. Well, you graduated from Monmouth, so, you know.
All right, we'll recognize.
So I skipped over somebody from Winthrop because we were doing Monmouth folks, so.
Are there any other Monmouth folks who wish to speak? Here we go. Your name, please.
My name is Berlina Hughes. I'm from Monmouth. I live on Maine. I'm just here to say what most people here were saying, that I'm very happy to hear that you withdrew the proposal. I agree that ICE is not representative or seemingly following the process and following the rule of law, which we've all kind of agreed to. And I think that their actions don't represent Monmouth or Monmouth PD, and I don't believe they have the skills to train Monmouth police officers. And I'd be happy to help and in any way I can in finding better training opportunities that would help the department. I've got, spare time, so if you need a brainstormer, I always want to help. So thank you very much. I'm very grateful for everything.
Other Monmouth residents or taxpayers that want to speak? Yes, right here. Your name, please.
Yeah, and I've lived in Monmouth my whole life. Yeah, I went to school here, graduated.
What class?
Nice knowing.
She's older than you and I, Kent, sorry. She's like my sister's age, but sister here. I have to be honest, so.
I mean, we're gonna give you a bonus 30 seconds.
Exactly.
I just want to say thank you, and thank you to the Monmouth Police Department. Anyone that knows you or knows Monmouth would not think for a minute that you'd be going door to door, knocking on anyone's door, okay? I agree with Stan. I think that, I live in North Monmouth, and to see some of the things that I've seen, I'm happy that you're out there, for anybody, no matter if they are from Winthrop or Augusta or wherever, right? But I will tell you, people talk about Lewiston, they talk about Bangor. I'm familiar, and I work with people in both those areas. Lewiston has a lot of violence, a lot. Bangor is not far behind it. So we don't really want Monmouth to turn into like Lewiston, Bangor, right? That's just, thank you. I just want to say thank you.
All right, do we have any other Monmouth residents that wish to speak?
Just one quick comment.
You can at the end. I see Senator Hickman from Winthrop wishes to speak. The moderator recognizes Senator Hickman.
Thank you, moderator. Can you hear me?
Yes,
sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry I cannot be there in person, but I did want to listen, and thank you, Chief, for explaining everything that caused you to submit the application, and thank you for explaining why you have ultimately at this point pulled the application. I just wanted the people to know that the legislature is considering two bills this session. One would require local law enforcement officers to collaborate and cooperate with ICE and immigration enforcement. Another bill will prohibit it, except for under certain circumstances. I don't have the bills in front of me to tell you when those public hearings will be, but they will be in the next few weeks because the bills have been referred to committees as of last week. And then I heard a comment from, I think, a Monmouth resident earlier about whether or not our taxpayer dollars should be used on training around racial profiling, which is separate from the training that the chief is talking about regarding what to do when one is on the side of the road with folks who may need to be dealt with by immigrations. And so in 2019, we passed a bill in the legislature that requires the Criminal Justice Academy's board of directors to come up with a learning block of instruction aimed specifically at the prohibition of racial profiling that is defined in statute. I won't read the statute, I have it in front of me, but in essence, it is required since 2019 that all law enforcement officers in their basic training programs receive bias-based racial profiling, and profiling based on socioeconomic status or even other protected classes, not just around race. So our taxpayer dollars are in fact doing that. And I can say that I do believe that law enforcement officers in the state of Maine take very seriously that they ought not be profiling, not because it's only because it's against the law, but because it's not right. And I do believe that they take great pains to not profile. Does not mean that if there's a specific suspect with a specific profile,
Senator, your time is up.
Put record that they will do that, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you, moderator, and good evening.
Do we have other, we have residents?
Well, yeah, we had two more Winthrop residents, but the first one on the list will do, Bunky Wilson.
Thank you to you guys for allowing. Quick question. When you withdrew your application, did that also mean that Winthrop will also not have that happen?
That's correct.
Okay, who's the other Winthrop resident?
Yes.
Gonna see when she graduates.
Well, I know that she graduated too, because she was in my other sister's class, so, you know. I have 3 older sisters, so.
Denise, your secret is safe with us.
Yeah. We didn't say what year it was.
No, we haven't yet. Yeah.
Let's say thank you for. You and interest. Thank you for looking into this. Whatever it takes to keep staff, your officers, and your community safe for everyone.
Finally get some people to come to our meeting. Were there any other comments? Dory, did you want to? I've got one here from, well, actually, Dory was first to raise her hand. Dory, you had one other comment?
I just have the one comment from folks who say that could never happen here. This is not, I'm no way insulting you or your, but rather the conditions which have led to this happening everywhere else. Massachusetts, it's happening in Massachusetts. Massachusetts is far more liberal than Maine. It is happening in places. You can say, oh, it'll never happen here. I think that's what they said in 1939 in Berlin. It'll never happen here, or it'll never happen to me. And I would urge people to consider it is happening to people we all know.
Jeff.
Yeah, the only question I had around are incidents still published in the police report or on a in the paper, like the police?
We put out a blotter every morning for the local news to pick up. We fax it to them. And what they do with it from there, sometimes they publish it if it's newsworthy. If it's not, they just let it go.
Chief, I know that monthly you provide us a breakdown of the types of calls and the quantity of calls and the time of day of those calls and all that other stuff. Is it possible that we could create a new category in those calls that would include something about interacting with undocumented people?
You can't prove they're undocumented.
No.
That happens in a court of law.
Right.
Right.
I think it's, the reason why I'm asking is I think.
I wouldn't want to single that out.
No, you shouldn't have to. It's
The
not.
reason why I'm
part of the
asking
job.
is, I understand, I mean, under law, you have to protect the rights of the individual, innocent until proven guilty in that sense and public information, but accurate information, understanding. If you're looking at moving across country, you can go on to a real estate site and you can also look at crime stats within that community. You can also look at how much milk will cost or eggs in that community. So it's sort of having more information to make informed decisions. This has been one of the very few forums over the 22 years that I've attended. I know you have meetings, but this has been a great interaction and a wealth of knowledge, and there's a lot of knowledge and experience in this room. And again, I think, from this, there could be something, in the sense of education that comes out.
Aiden, you had a question?
I have one more comment. I just want to share a statistic from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University that they produced in 2021 between 1996 and 2018. This is specific to Lewiston because we're talking about the crime rates in bigger cities, but we can also think about it in relation to immigrants in our communities. The crime incidence rates per 1,000 people between 1996 and 2018 decreased from 60 to 20. So just when we're thinking about correlation between the demographics in our community, crime rates.
Darlene.
Hi. I just wanted to say, having
been on the front line of this immigration issue, living in Texas for 5 years. And profiling and the other things that go on every day. And believe it or not, I got profiled in Texas. So because you're living in a very large community with not being able to know who your police officers are and interact with them or have that trust. So when they say you can't come home again, you can. And you realize what home is, that you have that ability to joke with your police officers and know them and let them trust you. I've seen profiling in Texas in all shapes, whether it be because people came across the border or because they lived there and grew up there, but their skin wasn't the same color as mine. So I think I appreciate always being able to come into your office, whether it, whatever the issue is, and be able to have that communication and to know that no matter what issue I'm coming in with, that you're going to listen with an open mind. And that does not happen in all communities. And, we're really lucky to have what we have here. That's the end of my soapbox.
Good job. You kept it
I see Ginger with her hand up.
So I'm wondering on the issue of stopping people who we can't communicate with because they speak a different language. If there are people in town that would be willing to sign up to be an interpreter for a language that they have in case it's ever useful. And, I don't think you'd figure out everything and maybe when you wanted them, they wouldn't be there. But is that something that would be just worth asking and they could, you could figure out how you kept that list or not? And that's just.
I wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't do it?
Because I'm not. I have no problem with Monmouth Police Department. None, zero. I'm happy to live in a small town with small active police presence. But considering what ICE is doing, I want no part of that. I want no part of that.
Only with the police department.
All right,
And
folks.
And nobody here is qualified to determine citizenship. So if it's to get somebody a court date, yeah, I'll come translate for you. But if you're gonna turn them over to ICE, I won't.
All right, the moderator recognizes Mike Levy of Winthrop. Who just disappeared. The moderator recognizes Chuck.
Oh, I was just gonna echo Darlene's comment, and I wanted to thank the chief for having a civil conversation tonight. I think, unfortunately, this seems to be the exception. Now, last night was watching a town hall meeting when people were getting dragged out, and I think it's nice that we can it's still possible to do.
That's what this is all about. That's what America is all about. We should be able to sit down and talk about our differences without getting up and throwing fists and flying for each other.
All right, the moderator recognizes Mike Levy of Winthrop again. Mike Levy, you have to unmute yourself, my friend.
That works. That works now. I'm Mike Levy from Winthrop. And thinking about what Ginger Hillier said about finding interpreters who might help with the language barrier, and I may be stating the obvious, but a little bit of work with a program on your phone called Google Translate allows people to communicate with people who do not speak English.
Thank you. Other comments? Oh, here we go. Sherry.
Thanks for your language. You referred to some documented language matters, illegal alien versus undocumented immigrants, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Other comments? We have one right here.
What kind of documentation are you looking for? What can they carry that says, okay, you can go?
There's no requirement in this country that we have the IDs. That's not a requirement.
You're not required to carry anything. And if you do have an immigration document, it's such a wide variety of them. Unless you have specialized training that is up to date with all the new immigration laws. As I was saying before, asylees, refugees, TPS, different stages of green card. It's myriad. It's not as simple as I'm a citizen and this person's not a citizen. Would that were life were that way, but it's complicated.
They're driving, you're looking for a license, they're qualified to drive, that would be what you would ask for.
For our people, like if you pulled me over in the US and I didn't have my license with me, is that an infraction? If I have one.
You're supposed to carry it on you at all times. However,
When you're driving.
when you're driving, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as,
But a passenger in the car doesn't need an ID.
Yeah, that's right, passengers.
Right.
No. It's a no-win situation.
Yeah.
It is impossible. People love to say, figure them all out. No, it's nuanced, it's complicated, it's complex for immigration lawyers. And I don't know if anybody in here is an immigration lawyer, but why should he be expected to do immigration law? His responsibility is our safety. And it's so complex and you cannot determine even sometimes, there was a whole group of people up in the border, because I'm from Aroostook County. And they were like, oh, I'm applying for Social Security. They go into the Social Security office. They're not American citizens. They're Canadian.
And they didn't know.
And they didn't know. And they looked like me and you. And they thought they were American
Okay.
citizens.
Other comments? We have one right here. Your name and where your town of residence.
My name is Caitlin Frame. I live in Monmouth. I was late to a concert. So I'm gonna
I
ask.
missed that tonight too with my grandson.
Yeah. Yeah, my partner is here. I have two questions, but that may have been answered, and I can refer to, the minutes. So first, will you be pursuing working with ICE in the future? Is that a possibility? And second, if this comes up again in the future, perhaps, where and when do select board agendas get posted?
I can answer the second question. Select board agendas are posted by the town manager, typically 7 days prior to any meeting. We meet every 2 weeks. You can find them on the website. You can ask for one to be emailed to you, I suppose. Once they're posted, they don't get changed. And
No, sometimes we do amend an agenda to
Oh, we
add
do?
an article, but
well, then I stand corrected on that.
not often. But they also, Dennis has been posting them to the Monmouth Facebook page as well. As soon as Dustin sends them to us, they're usually loaded onto the town website and they're also posted on the town Facebook page by Dennis.
So to answer your first question, one of the statements I made that you missed earlier is one of the reasons why I pulled the application is because of the divide that it's creating within the community, and that's not my goal. Okay, I said, I consider this my home. I've lived here most of my life, and I know most everybody in the community. And I didn't want to go through another division like we did last year.
Other comments on ICE-related application issues? Yes.
Just a quick observation. If I had just read the agenda, I wouldn't have known this was all going on.
We did not have an agenda in this matter tonight. It was, we did our public comment period early to accommodate folks. We all know you're here for that.
No, but I'm not.
Wait, I understand where you're coming from. Every meeting, we have our director's reports. So I took my opportunity as a director to bring this out. They didn't put it on the agenda, so that's why you didn't see it.
Okay.
So this was not an official agenda item. And if it were to continue, we would actually be obligated. My personal feeling, I guess I would share that with my colleagues here, we'd be obligated to have an official agenda item.
We're
So we'd
not
have to-
voting on it.
We're not making a decision tonight.
You don't have an action item, so that's why there's no agenda.
Yeah,
item.
yeah.
I do have a question. What is the requirement that you call the Border Patrol? Why make trouble for yourself? You sit by the side of the road.
Community safe, sir.
Yeah.
But you are not required to call.
I am not required, you're right, but I'm gonna do what I have to do to keep my community safe. I stood up there and I took an oath to support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Maine and the people of this community.
You are to enforce local and state law.
I swore.
Immigration.
We all swore.
Immigration is a federal issue.
Correct.
So you're
So,
making trouble
let
for
me
yourself
ask
by
you something.
calling.
When we had the 6 people behind Tex Tech at 2 a.m, you don't think we should have called?
No. Were they committing a crime?
They were trespassing.
Was that criminal trespass? Was the area posted?
Yes.
Was there a lawful action, a lawful order entered that they not be on that property? By the owner?
2 o'clock in the morning.
That's the law. That's the law on criminal trespass, is there has to be a lawful order, or the area has to
We
be
have
posted.
duty to investigate the complaints that we're given, right?
I don't think, I agree that you should have investigated. But I'm just thinking, there's no requirement that you call border control. You could tell them to leave.
Well, yeah, I'd like to make a statement that I respectfully disagree with my colleague here, and I'm glad that you handled the situation the way that you handled it.
Where did you go to law school?
That's why, that's
School of Hard Knocks.
And that's part of the effort.
Yeah, so
One moment, one at a time. We'll recognize Caitlin here.
So I don't know about this incident, but like something happened, these people were perhaps trespassing and you guys came in. And then you called Border Patrol based on what?
Based on their failure to produce any documentation.
but they don't have.
Are they legally required to show you that, like, at that time?
No.
This is where it gets muddy. This is where it gets muddy.
And this again goes back to what I was saying.
Yeah, there's a group of people at Tex Tech. If all of us went over and stood in the Tex Tech parking lot, then obviously he can come by if a neighbor complained and say, could you move on? And I think that's what he should have done, unless they had drugs or guns or a knife or something. But this is a country in which we are not required to carry identification of any kind or proof of citizenship, which, as I have said a billion times, is increasingly complex and difficult to define.
Correct.
Citizenship and then legal status. Forget it. We've got 17 different non-immigrant visas in just education alone, and that doesn't count all the other. Don't we have Jamaicans come up to pick apples?
They're here with a visa.
Okay, that's a work visa, right? Right. But they're not required, if they wanna walk to the quick shop and buy a Coke, they're not legally required to carry that.
But they're not legally required.
No, but they do.
This is a country that has.
Okay, folks.
Can I ask?
The moderator, yes, Officer Mora.
Am I allowed to ask a question? I am technically working. Okay, so I don't know if you guys know me, but my name's Sergeant Mora. I work in the police department. My question to Chief is, when we have an interaction with somebody, are they legally obligated to identify who they are? Whether it's verbally or with driver's license or identification card. If we have contact.
Roadside stop, yes.
You mean a driver, not a passenger.
Correct.
if we interact with 6 people behind text tech, are they legally obligated to identify who they are because we've been called to them and had contact with them?
No.
No,
I would like to ask Chief, please.
we got a lawyer sitting right there.
I get you, I get you. I thought this was questions for Chief.
When we deal with someone at 2 o'clock in the morning, kind of business, they have no right or reason to be there. Every single one of them's telling a different story as to why they were there. It raises that red flag, that level of suspicion, the reasonable suspicion that there's something wrong going on. And my opinion, yes.
Okay. In the course of the investigation for behind text tech, this was not my call. I did not respond to text tech. Was it during the investigation that it was found out that they did not have the proper paperwork? And in that case, required us to do more investigation like call order.
Yes.
What proper paperwork?
In that case where he stated he felt as though they had the obligation to identify who they were, and we can't find who they are, we then need to confirm who they are, is my understanding.
Criminal activity.
Criminal trespass. I thought we.
No.
According to the lawyer.
Yeah.
It was criminal trespass. I personally don't think it was legally required.
The business called us 2 in the morning, because there are people on the property that don't belong there.
You asked
In
them
the course of our investigation, we have the right to identify people that are trespassing on the business owner's property.
I would say as my final comment. This is me asking questions because I don't know. Okay?
I think you should know you're an officer. I'm sorry to tell you that.
Okay, I get that, but this is why Chief was wanting training. I'm not getting political, I'm not doing anything like that.
No, just.
But I would like the training to understand what my legal obligation is to protect both myself and who I'm dealing with. I don't care who the training is coming from, I don't care. I would appreciate the training, so I'm doing everything legally and by the book. Regardless of undocumented or not, that's, as an officer for Monmouth, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Other comments? Is the horse dead yet? Okay. I think we had one question about, and you all are probably gonna make for the road here, but the library ordinance? Was that, was there a question on the library ordinance? Maybe we can refer that one to the town manager about where we stand on the library ordinance and what's gonna be voted on.
Put it on the warrant and the voters will have a chance to decide on at the June election. Till then, there's nothing this board can do about it anymore. They've signed the warrant. The question is on the warrant for the voters to decide, and that's where we stand.
Okay.
They can't remove it at this point. It's gonna be a question on the ballot, and that's
So
it.
is it advisory or governing?
It's the ordinance that was reviewed, that was discussed at the last meeting and that the board chose to include on the warrant. It is the one that was recommended by the trustees.
Can we get started this one?
So,
Can we get a summary of
well,
what
I mean,
this
we have-
is?
Actually, if you pick up the town monitor,
Messenger.
town messenger, sorry, it's new. If you pick up the town messenger, you can actually see the questions and there's more detail if you show up to the town office and ask for the fine print of the questions on the warrant.
The ordinance.
So-
It's on the website also, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
The messenger. is on the-
Okay,
So,
yes,
okay, so I'm still not clear. So I guess that the last visit we had here was that it was gonna be governing. So my suggestion, if that trustee board is governing, I would like the hall trustee board to be governing as well.
Hall.
There's Compton Hall.
Oh,
trustee
Cumston
board.
Hall.
Okay, and my other comment is that from what I have observed, that I believe that the director is being coerced into getting done. And that's my opinion. She's an employee and the board is not. I don't know.
Other public comments?
Yes, if I
Yes.
may, when we had our last meeting, it was stated that there was going to be a public comment. You get that, if it was going on, that
in order for that to get on, there was going to be a public
Town meeting.
right to review.
There doesn't, not to include it on the warrant, we have to hold a public hearing before the election because we don't have an open town meeting where people can debate the issue. So sometime between now and June, there will be a public hearing on that ordinance. So there'll be another opportunity for the voters to ask questions and to voice their opinions on the issue.
Yep, and it'll go article by article, so it's not just about that particular ordinance, about every article.
No, it'll only be that.
No, it'll just be that because you've already held the public hearing on the beach ordinance and the other one. What was the other one? There's 2 or 3 on there. So sorry, I'm blanking.
So do we have a sense, Justin, when that might be?
Right. It's just that. Excuse me?
Do we have a sense when that might be on our agenda?
I don't.
Okay. Soon.
He answered it.
I mean, obviously it'll be in May because we're running out of runway here.
Other public comment? Hearing none, then I suggest we move on to our next agenda item. Thank you.
We had other department reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for letting me be the moderator.
Thank you.
Let's let the room clear here. Thank you, everybody. I don't really have anything, but if you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. Oh, yeah, check it out. It's starting to get a little.
I'm learning very fast.
I'm really going a week and a half, but it's just how it falls. We leave like Sunday, we fly out Sunday night.
Okay, all right.
We're gonna kindly ask if you want to have conversations, you can come out. We still have a business meeting to get through here tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll be back to the library.
Okay.
So, the rest of department reports.
So if you have any questions, I don't really have anything to share. It wasn't very exciting the last week, so.
And the windows, how'd the windows go?
Good, they're all in. I think it's hard for most people to tell. They did a good job matching the colors. Everybody's quite pleased that they can open the windows and I think it went well.
Those things you wrote about in your update from the last meeting. Start contract with lighting.
Yep, I got the final one back today from the vendor, but yep, that's all set.
You know what it is?
They expect to start in August. So it'll be,
Be one.
yeah, it's a few months. They have to make everything. They make it all as it's ordered in New Hampshire, so.
Or you got the new offer.
We're following our lawyer for now so that we don't have sort of a gap in our coverage, but he's moving, Jensen Baird is giving up their municipal unit. Some of their principals have retired. And there just kind of aren't enough people in the municipal world like everything else. So they decided to just kind of cut bait with the thing. So our lawyer is moving to Drummond and Woodsum, so we're following him for now and we can see how that goes.
Justin, where are we with the audit?
I sent an email last week and Mark did today because he didn't know I sent an email last week. Our auditor, Zach, resigned. So Casey is trying to get it finished and he's hoping, he said just today to Mark, he said he's hoping to do it next week. Look at it again next week.
So any moment.
I don't know if it will get done, but Casey says it's on his schedule for next week.
Sorry, I'm just hearing any moment.
And the rec director position,
Has been posted.
but there's nothing going on.
Any activity?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, it was just kind of posted, it was put on the website like last Thursday and it was posted on the job boards Monday. So it's only been 2 days. So I don't know. All that will go to Lori too. I don't see them as they come in. She vets them first and then.
That's for the waterfront director.
It would be both. It's for the full-time rec position that you created at your last meeting.
Assuming the voters approve it.
Yeah.
I'll wait for the select board report. It's not, I guess, okay.
Are we ready to public comment?
We already did.
Julie, you want to make a department
Yes, I was wondering about that.
I would just do a really quick one because it's getting late. Just wanted to let people know that we just purchased a number of items to augment the growing library of things. And I did want to sort of brag a little bit. The Boston TV station is coming up on Tuesday to do an episode of what they call Chronicle. I believe it's WGBH, don't quote me on that. But the library is going to be open. So I was teasing people, I said, if you want to break into television, come and borrow a book, maybe you'll have a walk-in role, I don't know. But our interview will be first, and then later in the day, they'll be interviewing Dawn McAndrews from TAM and also Dennis Price and possibly Linda Johnston for the building. If Linda's able to come, I've spoken to her. So it's quite an honor. We'll find out when that is going to air, that episode, and let people know. And then just briefly, this Saturday, from 10 to noon, we're doing a tween and teen, let's call it a fiber frolic, where we'll be doing weaving and loom knitting. It's not just for teens, adults are welcome to come, but it is teen-led by one of the exchange students that's in the community, and she's done one for us already. So we're doing another one, and I talked to Kathy Perlis and the folks from the adult fiber folks group, and we hope to have at least a couple of them come and mentor these students. So pretty proud of that. We're gonna deep dive into that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next thing is to consider a facade grant.
We want to do select board.
We got all discombobulated tonight.
Like to report.
I would like to report that there was a meeting of the Trails Committee. We're continuing to work through the nuts and bolts of our application for the $200,000 plus grant. I understand that the RSU is committed to a combination of financial and in-kind donations that will satisfy 50% of the match. The balance of the match would come from our town TIF funding, which most of it has already been expended. There might be a little bit more that we need to put into the pot to make the $11,000 threshold, should the grant be approved. So,
Which was the study that you folks approved spending money on earlier.
Right.
Yeah, right.
one question has come up and I wanted to sort of take the temperature of the board about it. Part of the application for the grant includes a plan for maintenance of this trail. We've been assured by our designer that there would be very minimal maintenance for the first 5 or 6 years because everything is brand new, but at some point there will be some required maintenance that includes things like trimming trees back maybe filling some holes, maybe a new culvert at some point. And it was my suggestion that I bring the idea to the board, because it would be helpful if we could make a commitment to cover the maintenance expenses from the TIF district. I understand that the TIF district would this would be eligible for TIF expenditure. If we had a statement from the select board to cover those maintenance expenses, then that would help the grant application. And I wanted to know what your thoughts were.
Where is this trail?
This is a trail that would cover, would essentially rebuild the cross-country trails that are behind the high school and now the middle school. A portion of it covers what is already now a snowmobile trail. This would be a general purpose and fully accessible trail, so even mobility impaired people would be able to use it. Which also means that it's pretty well durably engineered for it to be a lasting thing, which is kind of explains the expense.
I didn't know if you were talking about, the trail going in behind Cumston Hall.
That's a separate project that Dennis has been working on.
I have concerns about that.
Okay.
One of my concerns is that young people will be down next to the tracks partying or something, and that concerns me about liability. So I'm questioning that.
Well, as I understand it, municipalities are held harmless unless there's negligence involved. We're held harmless from liability claims when people are on public land doing their own thing. Unless we left a manhole cover open and someone fell in, or there was some sort of, duty to act to protect people.
That's all well and good, but I don't want to see anybody hurt on the tracks, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because kids are kids,
Right.
I don't know, that's just my opinion. They could get hurt on any.
Some adults are kids.
Yeah.
Kids will do that anyway. I know they do. As a school teacher, they've told me about one down there and.
Why are you pointing at me, Mr. Chair?
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
How many square pennies?
You just now read your face.
Remember that fly, Darcy?
Can't change the past.
Yeah, she fits.
Yeah.
I do like, if I may, I do like how, I'm glad you asked that because I was like, what trail? I like I like that whoever's doing and on that, to see the cross-country trails and our trails back open from running, and especially for accessible. That I think will create or get people out, hopefully more too.
Well, that's part of the idea.
Is there a lot left? The orchard took a lot of that.
Yeah, so the big challenge is not a lack of real estate, it's more of the water runoff that's coming from the new buildings.
Yeah.
So, and that explains a lot of the expense of building this trail, is that we've got to navigate around some wet, boggy soils.
So that's gonna be from a grant?
We're applying for a grant. Yep, there was a bond approved by the voters about a year ago. And that bond was a trails bond that is the source of the grant that we'd be applying for. Yeah. If let me make a motion, and if based on that motion, we can write a letter of support to the Trails Committee, that would be where I'd like to go with that.
You've probably seen this.
I have not. Oh, I did ask for this, but I haven't seen the actual thing. Yep, that's perfect. This is from the Conservation Commission. We're kind of looking for as many documented letters of support as we can to include in the grant to make sure that whoever's processing the grant and deciding how this money is allocated understands community is behind us.
So you are from the select board.
I'm actually looking for a statement from the select board that we would be willing to support the maintenance costs of the trail from TIF funds for the foreseeable future. So I make a motion that we ask the town manager to draft a letter to that regard.
I'll second that.
So there's a motion by Ken, second by Chris to write a letter, have the town manager write a letter supporting the trails grant. All those in favor?
I vote yes.
Thank you. To go back to the all that discussion stuff, I would like, as a former police officer, I think that to get officers so they know what they're dealing with and how to go about dealing with these situations. I mean, I think the Criminal Justice Academy should be taking doing something, just to protect the officers who are going to be having to do this. And and that would help a lot, I think, to so that people would not be
Apprehensive to do this.
so worried about everything. I don't know, and you know, if the state police were doing it, if the sheriffs were doing it, getting their officers trained, you know, they're further up in the hierarchy of, I'm not saying it right, of the in law enforcement.
Insinuation that better than us.
They don't.
They have nice.
Not that nice, they're wool. They'd rather have the cotton ones, I can tell you that.
The father who knew.
Mark, do you have anything?
No, I just want to commend Chief Ferlin for everything he's doing. I have the utmost confidence in him. If it's something he thinks we should move forward with, I would support him. If he thinks we should pull back, then that's what we should do. He knows what he's doing. And just, yeah, anything to support our officers. And I think we're moving in the right direction.
Thank you, Mark.
One quick comment, since Mark wasn't able to come to the police consolidation meeting yesterday, we did have another meeting between all the people. So I'll make Mark's select board report form for that.
Yep.
But we did have another meeting last night, and the chief presented Saul with some information about two communities in Massachusetts that had a paid for study done on consolidation, and it's great information. The communities are very similar, so we're working on reviewing that, and we have another meeting set up for May 13th or 12th or something, so that continues.
We started the meetings in October. We had 3 meetings, one a month up until December. We had our scheduled meeting set for January 7th. Unfortunately, Dana's accident on the 6th put that on hold, and it's been on hold till last night. We're starting back up our monthly meetings to keep traveling down that road.
How's he doing, by the way?
He showed up in my office yesterday.
He drove himself.
He actually drove himself for the first time in his vehicle since January 6th.
Stuck out with the car.
He did.
His truck, big truck. Able to get around, okay.
Great community,
He-
a great group that we have to work with too on that meeting that you pulled together,
Thank you. It is.
other than me.
I'd also like to mention, my thanks to the town manager and the chief and Tony, Public Works Director, for meeting and, discussing an implementation plan for, ATVs and side-by-sides, using public ways with limited degree, in the downtown area for this summer. I'm imagining, actually, can we have an agenda item for our next meeting? Officially posted agenda item, if that's all right?
If you'd like.
I've actually started on that policy that we talked about.
Yep.
But past week and a half, I've kind of been sidetracked.
I hear you. Well, is 2 weeks enough time? 2 weeks from tonight, we'll come to the board with a preliminary recommendation and see what you think. You know, again, it's a trial, and it's very flexible. If we need to make additions or subtractions, changes of the rules, it just would require a vote of the select board pretty much, in order to do that.
So can we go on to, facade grant for the Monmouth Museum?
Hope so.
Justin, you want to present it?
Sure, you have a memo. You've already approved $2,000 for the Monmouth Museum. They intended on doing all this work before, but they didn't think they could get it all done at once. The contractor is able to do it all at once. So they're looking for an additional, for the award to be updated to $3,750 from the $2,000 that was previously approved, which is 50% of the $7,000 project. It's basically trim boards and some roofing material, things like that.
And the EDC has
Unanimously, approved this.
Yes.
And it looks great. They're doing it right now on the,
blacksmith shop.
blacksmith shop.
Thank you.
Whatever that red building is on Maple Street.
I make a motion, we approve the TIF financing. I'm sorry, the facade improvement grant for the Monmouth Museum.
Motion by Ken, second by Joe, to consider, to approve the facade grant of Monmouth Museum. All those in favor?
Yes.
Thank you, Bart. Next is warrant number 18 for fiscal year 24-25.
Just time out. I can see it. It's just that it timed out, that's all. It's
I
just-
would need a magnifying glass the size of your folder to read
Oh,
it.
I can see it. Stay open so long, we turn it on like an hour. Stay open.
You're telling your age.
Yeah.
Just saying, you can read that sucker with no reader.
Yes.
I'm just claiming it.
Rock Earthworks, 2,772, material transport. Catalyst, that's our website annual fee, $5,612. Central Maine Power, various buildings, 4,313. Prophecy Watershed District, 19,677. BJ's Municipal Supply, patch materials, 1,812. Eco Maine tipping fees, 2,163. Fabian Oil, number 2, 1,091. Thermal Industries, $4,031.36. That's the demo removal transfer station. Hub International, $2,800. That's the insurance for the Academy building. La Rochelle Consulting, our TIF consultant, $1,400. Maine Equalization Consultants, this is 2 months, $4,875. That's the assessor. Maine Municipal Association for Property and Casualty Insurance, $28,232. Main Technology Group, IT and phones, 2,783. Main Waste to Energy tipping fees, 4,824. Monmouth Fire Auxiliary, that's the beach party from last year. We never reimbursed them. New England Salt Company, 5,265. Isabel, our planner, 2,190. Someday I'm gonna learn how to pronounce her last name. Maybe. Yeah, Rice is getting married. Hopefully she'll take that name. It'll be easier to pronounce. RSU number 2, 500. What?
I said the same thing Joe did. It's just, she's gonna marry a Smith, maybe. Make it easy.
RSU number 2, $549,308. State of Maine Bureau of Motor Vehicles, 11,932. For a total of $671,496.92.
I make a motion, we approve fiscal year 24-25 warrant number 18.
Second.
So the motion by Chris, second by Kent to approve warrant number 18 for fiscal year 24-25. All those in favor?
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Those in favor?